All right. I have a meeting in 19 minutes, so I will do this before that. I won't go in great depth on these games, basically. Otherwise, I would. But believe it or not, I've actually played every game on here as some random tier list maker thing. So I'm gonna be ranking these original Game Boy games. So let's see. First of all, we got Bomberman GB, which is technically Bomberman 2 Game Boy. It's got some Indiana Jones theme going on. I actually do not like this game at all, and actually I don't like the Bomberman series because it's terribly repetitive and just boring to me. Every gameplay is like the same. They're all the same. Like at least the one before this was Wario Bomberman. You know, it was a crossover, which was technically Bomberman Game Boy 1, at least for us North Americans. So that was pretty interesting because it's freaking Wario Bomberman crossover. I don't know how that happened. But what's weird about these games is that the only hard thing are the bosses, which is way harder than anything else in the game. I've actually seen someone spend 8 to 10 hours trying to beat the final boss of this game. Didn't quite take me that long, but basically the bosses in these Bomberman games will take you hours. It's kind of weird. Either way, I just don't find them fun. They actually bore me to death most of the time. And when they don't bore me to death, they're just very frustrating. I don't even think the bosses really work for Bomberman's controls because you can only move in 4 directions. If you could move like diagonally, it would be much easier to avoid them. Just like, I mean, it's like a top-down game. Like at least Link in Zelda, he can move diagonally. But this is like Zelda 1 controls. I'm talking about Link's Awakening, which is on here, of course. Castlevania The Adventure is actually the worst Castlevania game ever made. Oh, there's so many things wrong with it. I could make an entire video talking about how it's a disgrace. Somehow it's even worse than Haunted Castle for the arcade. Like, first of all, no sub-weapons. What? So, like, these levels are designed in such a way where you would expect, you have sub-weapons to actually deal with the enemy. All you can do is whip. So if there's bats above you, like tons of flying enemies, what do they even expect you to do? It's like they didn't even design it with your capabilities in mind. You got the whip upgrade, so you can actually upgrade your whip in this one, which gives you a little fire projectile. One problem is you get hit once and you lose your upgrade. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Seriously, who thought that was a good idea? So you basically, you got a shitty whip 95% of the time, and if you have a good whip, you just have to not get hit, which is pretty impossible, as I said, because, like, what are you gonna do if there's, like, your character already can barely move. Like, you can't move in the air, you have to commit to every jump. So if you're fighting a flying enemy, like, good luck, dude. First of all, the game is like extremely slow because this is a 1989 Game Boy release. Konami was pretty weird because they prioritized graphics a lot. So all their games, like TMNT Fall of the Foot Clan, just run really slow. This game is their slowest. Like Castlevania 1, the whole point of that game was so players couldn't just rush through it. That's why it's slow paced. But then Castlevania 1 feels like Sonic after you play this game. Like, I actually did that. Castlevania 1 feels extremely fast after you play this. It shouldn't even be possible. The levels are shit as well. The first 3, not even that bad. But then the last one will take you 10 hours until you realize that there's an invisible walkway that leads... Alright, so like you can't even heal in this game. First of all, there's candles. What do? They give you points. Usually they give you hearts so you can use your sub-weapons. There's no sub-weapons in this game. Points are meaningless in this game, actually. So it's a disaster in every way, this game. Candles are useless, except for the very small chance that they will drop health, which is the only way you can get health. So the final level, I spent like who knows how many hours on it, until I found this freaking invisible walkway that leads to a room with healing, which made it so much easier. That's just bad design. Bad design. Just terrible. Just terrible. Donkey Kong Land. See, this is pretty interesting because Donkey Kong Land 2 and 3 are just based off the Super Nintendo games. Donkey Kong Land 1 has its own identity and even takes place in the city much of the time, which is kind of weird. So it's not even based off Donkey Kong Country, it's just its own thing. Which kind of makes it like, it's like memorable because of that. It's actually a lot of these games I played on like 3DS way back in the day. This was one of them, one of like the first Game Boy games I played. Again, like this game's not very polished. That's a bit of a problem. You're just gonna have a bunch of silly deaths. But I mean, it's alright. Like this is one that I would actually not, like I've already revisited it. I don't mind revisiting it. Donkey Kong Land 2 is much worse. Donkey Kong Land 3 is the best, but they don't, like obviously it doesn't really have much of an identity of its own, so it's just like Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country 3 on Game Boy. But yeah, they just made this game based off nothing. Like you'd think it'd be like DKC, but it's not. There is DKC for the Game Boy Color. That's a very different game. So Final Fantasy Adventure, not quite as good as Zelda, but pretty much the best Zelda clone you will ever come across on Game Boy. Fun time with this. Kind of weird because, you know, Zelda you get better weapons and stuff. This game has stats, so you level up. Not sure how I feel about that. I don't really like that. I don't really like stats in games. I just like a focused sort of move set. Let's say move set. Well, yeah, I mean this game's fun. It's more like combat focused than Zelda. Not really puzzles in this. The tools, like the weapons you get, are pretty fun. Bosses are good. Obviously, presentation, music, graphics, pretty good. So, actually, it might be my favorite Final Fantasy game I've ever played in my life. Final Fantasy Legend 2. So, this is like my least favorite of the Legend series. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just Final Fantasy Legend 1 is really goofy and weird. Final Fantasy Legend 3 is pretty polished, which this game is just it's just in the middle. It's not as polished as Legend 3 or refined, and it's not as goofy as the first one. So I just have to put it in D. Just because it's my least favorite of the three. I mean, it's like a fine, like compared to most RPGs, is way better. They got the robots in this game, kind of weird. Legend 3, as I said, one of the most polished Game Boy RPGs you'll ever play in your life. I don't really have any complaints other than, I mean, it's an RPG, it's not really like my thing. JRPG, turn-based, whatever. But as far as those on Game Boy, this is probably my top 3 besides Pokemon, you know, so. This game looks very similar to Mystic Quest on Super Nintendo, which is kind of weird. I'll have to play that one. Legend 1. So this game's really funny because it's so broken and weirdly designed for so many reasons. Also, I have like 11 minutes left of this. So weird because first of all, you can teach all your characters Saw. So here's the thing. Saw is like a low hit or success rate, right? But you can teach it to everyone. So if you have 4 party members and they're all using Saw, it's a good chance it'll hit. And Saw is a one-hit KO move. So I one-hit KO'd the final boss, and it was funny. And that's the thing with this game. It's really funny. And like most people will say it's like really inaccessible and hard. This is because if your character dies a certain amount of time, you pretty much can't use them anymore. And they're gone forever. Plus, the human characters in this game, the human class, cannot level up. They don't get stats for leveling up. You can only get them stronger from their gear. But basically, this game's really easy to cheese, which is freaking funny. But otherwise, if you don't know that, then like it's pretty unforgiving. So, Game Boy Gallery. I mean, this is like Game & Watch games. So, not really. It's Game & Watch games with better graphics. So, Game & Watch. I have nothing else to say about it. Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters. So this is a game. So original Kid Icarus on NES, pretty good. This one's a bit weirder because there's such an emphasis on actually getting good stats. So if you actually don't level up your stats in this game, you'll be in a bad situation like I was. So basically there's this boss that I hit more than 200 times. And then I stopped counting when I actually went back in the video. So because my attack was so low, like I'd hit him over 200 times. And that really just left a sour taste in my mouth. I hate games with stats, dude. Not really. Well, sort of. Basically, if this game didn't have stats, I mean, it'd be pretty good. Kirby Block Ball. I'm not really a big Arkanoid fan. This is just, you know, the Kirby spin on Arkanoid. You know, it's got Kirby stuff. Got some powers. Most Arkanoid clones do not have that. You know, good graphics, but as I said, like Arkanoid games, really unengaging to me because you're just waiting for the, like, it doesn't really feel like you're playing a game. You're just watching a ball hit stuff, and then occasionally you hit it back. So I don't know, not really for me. Kirby's Dream Land 2, really good game. One thing I don't like about it is getting the true ending, which is very tedious because you need the animal buddies and you gotta go through the levels without dying once with them, and then when you lose them you got to go back in a like different world and try and get the animal buddy again. Getting the true ending is really tedious, but otherwise it's a great improvement over Dreamland 1 in every way. You know, obviously you actually get powers in this game. It's longer, some very interesting level design. If you know the infamous level I'm talking about, based off you know, if you know, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's a good game. Just the true ending's really tedious. Kirby's Dream Land 1, not as good as, you know, not as good as the second one, but still really highly replayable. Only half an hour long, really easy, but it's a good time. It's a good half an hour, so who cares? Well-designed game. Again, like, here's the thing, the whole half an hour is not like a dull moment, but it is only half an hour, so. Kirby's Pinball Land. This is probably the most impossible game on here because it's pinball, and I've seen people take like 20 hours to beat this game or more than that. I actually used the codes to get straight to the bosses because I didn't want to frickin' no, I can't do pinball. I'm not a big pinball fan. This is actually pretty unforgiving as well. I don't really like pinball. Alright, what do you want? I mean, just because it's Kirby, I have to like it? No. Mega Man 2, so this game is extremely... Oh, I have 6 minutes! I have to rush through. Mega Man 2, really weird. Not even close to as good as the actual Mega Man 2, but still pretty good. Music is highly questionable. This game is like extremely easy. The easiest Mega Man, like, on Game Boy or NES, but it's fun. I mean, whatever. Mega Man 4 is like probably the hardest, absolute hardest Mega Man, like on Game Boy at least, with really cheap deaths, and everyone seems to love it, so I'm a little confused. Like, they're like not even, it's not even like debatable whether these deaths are cheap. Like, it's not even fair if you've never played before to know like what's gonna happen, whatever. Mega Man 1, so this is a game people think is like extremely difficult. I'm not sure why. This is actually like pretty easy, like not easy. Basically the first level is the only hard one because you don't have any powers, but once you get the powers they're actually really useful and you can just kind of blast through the levels. But I feel like most people don't beat the first level, so like I've seen like people's like say they just hate Mega Man because they played this game. And it's like, okay, I don't know, dude, whatever. It's like, it's a fun game. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good game. Metroid 2, highly repetitive, like my least favorite Metroid game, because all you do is go around, kill 50 Metroids. So that's like, you're just killing 50 Metroids. It's like, you do the same shit 50 times, plus, you know, you don't have a map, right? So that sucks because you're on Game Boy, everything is the same color. How are you going to remember where you are? But I mean, the mechanics are highly, pretty good, like big upgrade as far as mechanics go from Metroid 1. I still prefer Metroid 1, obviously. As I said, it's my least favorite. But I mean, this game, pretty good. I mean, it's like, you know. Now, Pokemon, if you've actually played all the RPGs on Game Boy, you know that Pokemon is actually next level compared to them for many reasons. I was gonna go into depth as for why, but I don't have much time anymore. So I'm just gonna have to put it in A. I actually prefer. I think this game is better designed than even the last many Pokemon released for many reasons. These games actually let you play them. There's no constant interruptions with stupid story and cutscenes, which is like what the new director of Pokemon loves to do in all of his games. So this is a highly replayable game, really good map design with the interconnectivity. There's 56 different badge orders you could approach this game in. Like you can go you can go to the 7th badge before you get the 4th one. That sort of thing. Obviously, Pokemon has replayability, whereas other RPGs don't, because so many different ways you can play the game, so many different team combinations. You could just pick one Pokemon. And I mean, the amount of content is insane. This game took 6 years to develop. The developers weren't even paid either. They just made it out of passion while they made other games just so that they could survive. So this game wasn't made. They just wanted to make a game that they liked, basically. And people might be like, oh, well, this game doesn't have as much content as some other games. They couldn't even put more content in this game if they wanted to, basically. They actually debugged the game, and then they had enough space for Mew, so they just added Mew. Anyway. But that's the thing, old games, you actually had limited space, so then you don't waste space. So all your content, should be good, because you don't want to waste space. New games, you can have as much space as you want, so people just put padding in that sucks. Whatever. Super Mario Land 2 introduces the Wario character. They don't actually introduce new villains in Mario anymore, so that's kind of weird. Kind of wish they actually did that. That's why the Super Mario Land series is incredibly weird, because it doesn't have Bowser. This one's a little bit slow for me. This game is slow because the sprites are big and all that stuff, so the screen size, they have to make them slower. So Super Mario Land 1 is faster. This game just has a lot of pretty good amount of content. This game doesn't half an hour, but it's a fun half an hour, just like Kirby's Dream Land, so you can't be upset about that one. Tetris, so this is 1 minute. Alright, these are all A's. So Tetris, one of the best pick up and play games for the Game Boy for obvious reasons. Zelda 1, I actually haven't done. This is the only one on the list I haven't played on stream, because I did the Switch version. So I need to do the Game Boy version, but pretty obvious A. Wario Land might be better than every 2D Mario ever made. It's kind of sad that people don't appreciate this game. Anyway, I have to go to a meeting, so that's it.